Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Sorry I got a late go on this morning. Give a couple minutes since it took me a bit to get in, and then we'll jump in. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Robinson. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, yesterday was my birthday. Last night at the table, we share something from our day that's good, beautiful, or true. And so last night I shared that it's true that I'm another year older, which means I'm another year wiser. To which everybody laughed and wasn't quite sure that was true, but I'm going to hold on to that and believe that it is. It's another year to enjoy the favor of the Lord for sure, and I'm grateful for that one. Hope you're all doing well. Looks like another nice day outside a little bit. I can see the sun out my window, and hope you guys are excited for the week that's ahead and the surprises that God will have for us in that. That's right. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate that. If I'm another year older, that means Steve is at least another day older, right? So you all are getting old too, one way or the other, right? Just so happens that mine cycled around yesterday. Well, let's begin as we do at 9:30, even if it's 9:35, with the Lord's Prayer, and then we'll jump into the Word this morning. Will you pray with me? Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. So this morning we are in Leviticus 24 and Psalms 31. So hopefully you've been able to jump in there. If you haven't, you can jump in after and dive into what God's going to be talking to you about. But as I read and reflected this morning, a few things jumped out at me, and it's always fun doing these devotions in the morning because there's a part where it just doesn't feel like you can tie up the loose ends, which I think is a good thing. Then it allows it to linger. But a couple things that jumped out at me in Leviticus was all in this section about the punishment for blasphemies, talking about at the beginning of the lamps and the tabernacle, and then he goes on at the end talking about an eye for an eye. But this part in here about the punishment for blasphemy was quite interesting. And I think because there was like a harshness to it, in that there's a fight that goes on and in the camp, and somebody blasphemes the name and cursed. And growing up, I worked as a landscaper, and with a lot of construction people, and I hear that it can be similar in military environments, but the language wasn't always the kindest. And as I read that and read about what happens, it kind of startled me, I guess, a little bit, in the sense that how many people have flippantly said things at different times that really have revealed, I guess, what's going on in their heart. And it caused me to pause. But a couple of the other things that jumped out, verse 12 says that, so when this happened, they took the guy and they put him in custody until the will of the Lord should be clear to them. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Like, something has happened, and so what do? They kind of put him in a place until they can wait on the Lord to figure out what's going on and what they're supposed to do. And then God speaks to Moses and tells him exactly what to do. Tells him that the congregation is supposed to put their hands on him and then stone him. And I just thought, wow. What goes on, what God is cultivating in our heart comes out one way or the other. And Leviticus is a book that really brings out a God who cares not just about what we portray on the outside, but what goes on the inside. And I've learned a lot about that, I think, during this virus. And it's my wife and I have talked often about how these kind of things don't allow us to hide what's going on inside of us anymore. It just kind of comes out. We can't hide behind the busyness and the things that are going on, or the trips to the store, or the sporting events, or whatever. It kind of brings out what's really in our heart. And I think this was another one of those reminders of, how am I cultivating my heart? How am I cultivating the things that are only going to come out whenever I get ticked off, or when something doesn't go my way that I really don't like? And I was reminded that God cares about that. And then as I jumped into 31 in Psalms and read through that, I thought it was interesting. In my translation, the ESV, it says, the heading is, "Into your hand I commit my spirit." And as I read through that, as with many of the Psalms, it's like he's bouncing all over the place, right? And on the beginning, he says, "In you, Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me. Incline your ear to me. Rescue me speedily. Be a rock and refuge for me, a strong fortress to save me." And he continues in that vein. And then he kind of talks about some of the things that have been going on, his affliction and the distress of his soul in 7. And he talks about where he's been delivered into the hand of the enemy, but that God has set his feet in a broad place. He asks for him to be gracious to him in his distress. And then he talks about because of his adversaries, he's become a reproach, especially to his neighbors, and how things have become difficult. So he starts in this one end with asking God to be that he's going to take refuge in him, but then he mentions all these things that are going on that are kind of alienating him from other people and causing him heartache and distress. And then he says, "But I trust in you, O Lord," in verse 14. "Say that you are my God, and that my times are in your hands, and rescue me from the hands of the enemies and from my persecutors. Make your face shine on your servant, and save me in your steadfast love. O Lord, let me not be put to shame, for I call upon you. And let the wicked be put to shame, and let them go silently to Sheol. Let the lying lips be mute, which speak insolently against the righteous in pride and contempt. How abundant is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you." In the midst of whatever he's finding himself in, and the exact details we don't know from here, but he's got his eyes fixed on God and finding refuge in him in the midst of all the things that are going on. And many days I find myself getting up in the morning excited for the day and hopeful for what's ahead, and a real sense of peace. And feeling like, man, this is going to be an awesome day. Nothing's going to go sideways. But there's this kind of little pause in me that's God saying, just ready. I'm preparing you for something, and you're going to be surprised, but I'm not. And as I read through this Psalms and read in Leviticus, God kind of just put some pieces together in the sense of saying, make sure your refuge is in me. Make sure you start and that you live daily in me, that your heart is fixed on me and not the situations or how your neighbors or how you're getting along or what people think of you or what your enemies think, what they're saying, but on me. Am I going to be your refuge? Is your trust going to be found in me, or is it going to be found in some other place? And as I step through my day, my heart is that I'm rattled a little bit by what I read in Leviticus, that God does care about what's going on in the heart, that in those emotional times when things just bubble up and come out that I just can't control, that are that just jump out from what seems to be out of nowhere, they're really not. They're the things that I've cultivated throughout the day. They're the times whenever I've taken refuge in other places, whenever I've looked for love in wrong areas and have not found them and fixated on his steadfast love. And so I'm grateful as we close out that Psalm 21 through the end said, "Blessed be the Lord, for he has wondrously shown his steadfast love for me. No matter what I've done, he's been steadfast in his love for me. When I was in a besieged city, I had said in my alarm, I'm cut off from your sight. But you heard the voice of my pleas for mercy when I cried to you for help. Love the Lord, all you his saints. The Lord preserves the faithful, but abundantly repays the one who acts in pride. Be strong, and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord." I'm grateful that God's doing a work in me, that as I turned another year older yesterday, that he's still working, that he hasn't stopped, that he is still, in his grace, revealing the things of my heart that at times I've kind of hid over but come out. But he's still working, and that he still is faithful, and he is my refuge, and that I just need to wait on him. So as we close, would you pray with me for yourself and for the others who are joining us and the others who haven't joined us this morning? The Aaronic blessing that we find in Numbers. The Lord bless you, and the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you his peace. May it be so. Have an awesome day in him, and may he be your refuge. Blessings.